We are just waiting for a couple more.
Yeah, let's think we're going to start at 3 past the hour.
3 past, okay.
Fair to give
2 more minutes.
A minute or two and to come in.
Just hit my elbow.
Oh, we already have a lot of people in, actually, right?
Yeah. Here we go. I think we're waiting for a couple more, aren't we? Right, 30-second timer, then we'll start. For silence. Couple more seconds. What do you think, Jan? Should we make a start or?
Yeah, that's perfect. We got
Okay.
big number in there.
Yeah,
so.
we have indeed. Okay, perfect. So good morning, everyone. Warm welcome to you all. We'll start with names. So I'm sure some of you know me already, but for those of you who don't, my name is James. I'm the sales and account manager here at Sci Net. And with me here today, who will be taking the lead later on, we have Insights technical account manager, Jan. Now, before I hand you over to Jan, you've all come here today to see or refresh your memory on how Jet's advanced financial tool can streamline your reporting processes within NAV and BC, Business Central. But for a bit of background between our two companies, we currently manage 26 mutual active customers, but also Sci Net and Insights. I think we've been in such a long-standing partnership that we've had to actually remind ourselves before this that it's been 8 years. So 2015, which is a very long time. However, all of us at Sci Net can definitely agree Jet, the tool that you'll see today, is unlike any other reporting tool we have come across. It's absolutely truly brilliant, and something to definitely put in your wish list if this is something you're thinking about. Going a bit more proactive with informed decision making and improving obviously your performance in general within your ERP system, along with many other benefits. So today I think Jan will be taking you on a journey in unlocking what Jet Reports is again, giving a refresher on that and the benefits that you can reap from utilizing this within your ERP. And I think Jan has actually prepared us a nice demo too, which is rather exciting. So before I let you take over, Jan, if you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, there's a Q&A section just at the bottom. Just write anything in there, write all your questions in there, and we will answer them at the end. So I think that's it. I think I've ticked everything off. So without further ado, I'll be quiet now, Jan, and I'll let you take over.
Yep. So yeah, a bit of housekeeping there. I was looking at the webinar and how long it was planned, but usually it should take about 30 minutes depending on the number of questions. As James said, you can ask questions. You can even raise your hand if the question is relevant at that moment. I know there's a number of people in there, but if you you put your question in the Q&A, I got them open. So if they're relevant at the moment, I might answer them immediately, or as James said, just we'll answer them at the end. But just feel free to ask them, and we'll answer anything as best as possible. So I'm Jan de Dijker. I'm a technical account manager at Insightsoftware, which basically means I'm, as I say, a solutions expert. I've been working with reporting on Business Central or NEV before that, of course, for the past almost 20 years. And I've been using Jet for well over 15 years as well. Jet reports, of course. We're at Insightsoftware. I'm going to talk a bit about Insightsoftware, not going to take too long. At Insightsoftware, we manage about 80 products at this point, and the core value of those products is that they are all tailored towards an ERP system or certain ERP systems. The Jet products we have, such as Jet Reports and Jet Analytics, are really built around Business Central, which also means they're a lot easier to use than most generic toolings if you were to connect to a Business Central or an NAV. So I think that's part of the core value. Talking about those products, we have, as I said, almost 80 products. Only 2 or 3 of them are tailored towards the Business Central environment. But the number I really like here is we have in total about 30,000 customers, and 18,000 of those are Jet Reports. So talking about the bulk of our product, Jet Reports is really king of the hill. So it's a really important product for us to manage, which I'm glad about because it's my job. So yeah. So yeah, looking at our Dynamics landscape, we have 3 products running there. Today we're going to talk about Jet Reports exclusively. We also have Jet Analytics, which is basically moving on with Power BI and doing analytics more than operational reporting. And the third one we have is BizView, which is a planning and budgeting tooling for the upper end of the market. Basically, if you have 15 or more budgets shareholders, something like BizView or like budgeting tooling comes in. So today, of course, we're going to talk about Jet Reports. The operative word in Jet Reports is Excel. Excel brings us a lot of benefits, and I'm going to talk about that. It brings us benefits in a couple of ways. In terms of adoption by customers, I've been doing training for Jet Reports for a long time. I think I did the math. I trained over 400 people so far on Jet Reports. And I just noticed that people with a lot of Excel knowledge, they pick it up faster. So Excel knowledge is really key in using Jet Reports. So we noticed that, for example, with our partners, there's usually a little less Excel knowledge than there is actually at the customers, because people working in finance or inventory, they live in Excel every day, day in, day out, while someone like a BC consultant, they use Excel, but often a lot less than someone like a financial controller. So we just noticed that people with a lot of Excel knowledge pick it up a lot faster. It's really key there. In terms of front end and reporting and the flexibility of it, again, Excel is really operative there. Everything you can use in Excel, everything you know in Excel, you can use in your Jet report. Things like charts, conditional formatting, pivot tables, you know, all the usual suspects, but you can use all of them, which makes it really, really flexible. Okay. We set most of this here. Okay, so what we do and what we're going to show today is basically we're connecting our Excel directly to our Business Central. Could be in a Business Central, could be in NAV. A lot of our customers are still running NAV, of course, or could be both. Could be both your NAV and your BC if you're in a transitional period, or you just have 2 companies in 2 different databases. Perfectly possible. This also means this brings a couple of advantages, of course. The biggest advantage is that your data is always real time, because you're running it directly from Business Central. Another advantage is that no extra software is needed to pull all the data. So there's no intervention needed when you need extra fields. You can just, everything is exposed to Jet Reports. So as soon as you have that connection set up, you can access all your data that you could possibly think of in Business Central is visible to you. So that's pretty important. So now, what is Jet Reports, or why do we do Jet Reports? What we did with Jet Reports is basically we looked at probably the most used reporting tool in the world, which is Excel. And then we looked at how is it lacking as a reporting tool, because people use it as a reporting tool all the time, but a lot of the time it's a lot of copy pasting, doing manual interactions, which brings a lot of room for error and a lot of excuse me, a lot of repetition there. So we looked at how can we avoid that. So there's two sides to that. So first off, there's the automation part, avoiding that copy pasting, that repetition, being able to set that up once so that with the press of a button, you could refresh everything. But that is pretty important. With that also comes, of course, that specific connection that we do to Business Central and NAV. We are not completely tied to them. We can connect to just about every other data source as well with Jet Reports, but they really come to shine with Business Central and NAV. These databases have some really specific things going on, especially going Business Central public cloud. You need a special connector to do Business Central public cloud reporting. That's of course something we do, but also things like multi-company are different in Business Central than they are in other ERP systems. So we got those specific connectors set up. Of course, we also have them for Great Plains, which is a lot less known in our side of the world. We see it a lot more in APAC and the US, which is also a Microsoft Dynamics product. And the real-time data, as I said, we're push of a button, you can refresh all your data. And we're going to talk about that, drill down what that entails also with Business Central. As I said, we fixed the multi-company in Business Central, made it a lot more straightforward to do multi-company reporting, consolidation reporting, things like that. And we can even do that across data sources. So again, if people are moving from NAV to BC or something similar, it's also pretty easy or pretty straightforward to report on both at the same time. And then this last two blocks we have here is actually the other side of the equation to having a reporting tool is distribution. And again, with Excel, you can save an Excel as an Excel file. You can do that with the Jet Reports. You can send it to a colleague or to a customer or to a vendor, whoever needs that report. But it's still just emails and it's Excel or export as PDF, which isn't always ideal. And it's a manual labor as well, let's say. So what we have in there as well is a fully featured scheduler. I've worked with dozens of reporting tools over the past couple of decades, and I've yet to come across a scheduler that is as functional as the one in Jet Reports. That means batch scheduling. Batch scheduling means, for example, if you have 20 salespersons, you all want to send them a sales report at the end of the week. The batch scheduler is going to send those 20 individual emails for every salesperson, pulling all that data it needs from your Business Central, because the salespersons are in there, their email address is in there, and it can tie those sales to their effective numbers so that they all get their individual report. But it avoids you having to send out 20 emails at the end of the week. And you'd be surprised how often people do that, things like that, right? Sending an email to every vendor and that had a delivery that week, sending an email to every salesperson end of the week. And it often takes up a couple of hours every week, so or every month. So that's something that's really been pretty good and pretty well received with our customers. And the last part, I'm going to show you the last part as well, the ability to publish that Excel file to a web interface so that people can look at it from there and even refresh the data again from there. So they have no need for a Windows machine, basically, a Windows machine running Excel. So they can do it from the phone, from a tablet, from a Chromebook, a MacBook, whatever, from anywhere, anything that has a web browser. Okay. That was it for the slides. So I got the whole of 5 slides there. And let's jump into Jet Reports. Jumping into Jet Reports, pretty simple. What is Jet Reports? As I said, it's a reporting tool in Excel. So in essence, that means I get an extra ribbon in Excel called the Jet ribbon or Jet Reports ribbon. And as I click that, you see a lot of buttons there. Basically, this entire set of buttons gives us a number of tools for building reports. What it does in the basis of it is adding a couple of functions to Excel. And we had a number of wizards to apply those. I'm going to go through, I'm going to show at least one of those. But we can also just enter these Excel functions, and I'm going to show that as well. A lot of our customers know a couple of these by heart, just because they are fairly easy to set up. And yeah, I think most of us know a lot of Excel functions by heart anyway. We know the sum to build up a sum, of course. We know an average, we know all of those. And Jet adds a couple. There's one I'm going to show you is the GL function, which is specific to pulling your GL, which does what it says on the tin, basically. So, but I'm going to look at these settings here. What I got on the right is I got my connection, which is set up. And as you can see, I've got a couple of connections I can set up here. I have already set up. I have an older NAV running here on 2015, which I can connect to run reports on. And I got a data model, which is analytics. And I even got a data warehouse, which is just a SQL database. So I can report on all of those if I want. Of course, today I'm going to focus on this Business Central database. And this Business Central database also has two companies. Again, I can switch the company here, but I can also make reports that run across both companies at the same time. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now, I'm going to first show you a wizard. I'm going to show you one of the simplest one we have, which is the fast financials. Why is it a simple one? Well, it does nothing but pull your chart of accounts. So it allows you to just have some accounts in there, put them in your Excel file, and then just being able to refresh them whenever you want. As you can see, I got my chart of accounts with nice indentations, just as I would see them in Business Central. And I can select a couple of those accounts using Control or Shift or a combination. There we go. And then as if I'm done selecting, I just drag and drop them, and it'll make me a little report. It does a bit of extra behind the scenes. It made an extra sheet, an option sheet. And actually, the option sheet is for me as a designer, the ability to give my viewers, my colleagues, most of the time, give them the possibility of changing parameters in there. So, of course, I could fill in this Excel cell, I could fill in a date here, but my colleagues, they're going to refresh this report or run this report, and they're going to get this pop-up, which comes from the option sheet. Again, you have all the flexibility of Excel in here. You can do everything you want with formulas in there from an Excel standpoint. But let's focus on this first. So I made a little report, and as I run it, you see actually that those options pop up. And those GL reports, they're pretty special. They have a company set up here, because you can even put in multiple companies in here as well. I can even put in an asterisk, and it'll just sum up all the companies in one go. But there's a couple of predefined filters. Again, you have all the flexibility there of adding or removing those. So I'm just going to run this, and as I run this, all of this is just refresh this data, pulls it again from Business Central, and I can do that basically 100 or 1,000 times a day. It doesn't really matter. Just going to pull that latest data in there and refresh this Excel file. So right off the bat, you can see you can do a lot with this in Excel. You can, of course, start summing up some of those accounts or subtracting them, making different groups. And then just when you're done, you refresh it, you got the newest data. And then next month you run it again, or you schedule it so you have it in your mailbox every 2 weeks or whatever. So there's a lot of possibility here. One thing I really like about Jet reports is even if I get these numbers, I can have a little look, and I see this. This is 15 million there. I can actually click this. If you see, if I click any of these numbers, you see this little arrow up here. This is our drill down arrow. We also have a drill down button here for if that arrow is obscured by an image or by a chart. You can click that. It does the same thing. And as soon as I click this, it opens up my web browser and it jumps to Business Central, and it shows me the detail of that number. So in this case, it just shows me the GL entries of that account. You can see these are all of that account. If I were to put a date filter on all of this, it'll also apply this date filter to this screen. So it's a really nice way of putting more data in your report without actually putting more data in there. So I'm going to show you that at least one more time later. Okay. So of course, the GL is not all we can report on. I'm going to make a second sheet. I can make as many sheets as I want. Again, it's Excel, and I can put different reports on all the sheets, or I can just make different reports, of course. GL accounts. So I'll rename this sheet GL accounts, and I'll make a second one, and let's make a little customer list there. So we can access. I'll answer that in a second. Okay, so I can access actually all the data that is available in my Business Central. Our fast financials pull the financials, as you've seen. But if I jump into something like the browser, I can actually see all the tables that are in my Business Central, which is, I think in the basis, it's already more than 1,200 or 1,400 there up to now. So it's a lot of tables, but we got a nice little search functionality in there. We've got the functionality of making favorites. So you don't have to look for your tables every single time. You can just put on the star and then it show you your favorite tables, which you've selected beforehand. I'm just going to look for the customer table. And as you can see, it's one of my favorite tables. And as I click that customer table on the right, I can see all the fields available for that customer table. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to make a little customer list. Very straightforward. I need a couple of fields there. So let's do the number and the name. The fields are, of course, alphabetically. They can be in any language you have in your Business Central. I think for most of you that will be English. I live in Belgium, so all of us have at least 3 languages in there. And I'll pull the balance as well. So I got 3 items there, 3 fields. And as I drag and drop those, it'll drop those on the sheet. You can see those titles. They also have the numbers. These are field numbers. Again, it's something that we usually apply for multi-language, but we can just easily rename those filters. And as soon as I start doing make a layout on this, it's all Excel, of course. Let's put this in white and then gives us a nice dark blue. All of this is Excel. There we go. And again, might seem silly, but when we are doing trainings for Power BI, I have to teach people how to make up stuff. While in Excel, in our training for Jet Reports, we don't focus on that at all. We sort of assume that you guys know how to put a line underneath a number, right? So what happens now? You only see one line. As soon as I run it, I'm getting a pop-up for the date filter and everything again. I can run this, and I'll just populate that entire customer list with my balance on there. If I want to change anything on this, for example, I want the total on there, I want to format this number a little bit. That's something I go back to design mode, and I can edit. Let's make this number it's in dollar, or I can just make it a currency. Yeah. There we go. I'll just make a regular number. And then if I want to total this, I can just do an Excel sum. Show me as an Excel sum, maybe put that in bold and a bit bigger. And then let's run that again. And it'll put that sum in the bottom. And you can see it's still an Excel function. It's still readable as an Excel function, but it's just expanded with the automation or the running of that report. Okay, I'm going to show you the drill down one more time. And I got a question on that, so I'll answer that. So I can just do this drill down, and instead of jumping to my GL entries, in this case, it jumps to my customer because I did the drill down on the customer. Outdoor gear limited is the one I drilled on. Unlimited. Now it jumps to that customer. Okay. So how do you add a pivot table? There's a couple of ways of doing that. I would do the pivot table a bit different. Something very similar that we do here is, for example, if you do a chart, that's a bit easier to show now. You can just use Excel there. So you use, let's do a chart on this. I make a dummy line, otherwise that chart gets confused first. I'll put a dummy number on there, and I'll delete that as soon as that chart is created. Otherwise, I think it gets confused. It still gets confused. Let me see what I go wrong on this one. I'll make it easier on myself. I do it as I do it in training. I run the report first. The trick is to get the right range, and that Excel chart pops up from the first go. And it often gets confused. Okay, it was correct. It was just the way it wanted to show it. Okay. It's one more line. And basically a pivot table would be the same thing. So this is actually, it's just a sort of dynamic range. I dive into it more as I do the training, but as you can see, now it only has one entry in there, after field corporation. But what Jet starts to do is just using Excel and inserting all that data there, all those customers. And as it inserts that data, that range expands. So the same goes for a pivot table range, or for a range for a chart like this. But the same goes for the sum function. The sum function as well is just 2 cells, but as Jet inserts that data automatically, it expands those. Yep, so they would need a BC license to connect to this. I know there are some ways around that, but it also leverages all the BC functionality, also BC user rights. So even if I make this report as a designer, and if I give it to someone who doesn't have access to this customer information, he won't be able to refresh this report at all. So it does leverage all that BC. These people running this are basically a BC user. Yes, that's correct. I also have someone who said our drill down is very slow. We could look into that. My experience with it is the drill down is really fast. It's Navision or BC, whatever you're using, the first time you load it up is slow. So open up NAV, for example. The first time when you open up an NAV, it could take a couple of minutes. But if the NAV client is open and you do the drill down, it's immediately. But if it still needs to load the NAV client, you have to wait for the NAV client to load up. Now, when I experience that, a lot of the time is when people have multiple companies in one report, which is really nice to have, and you have all the numbers for the multiple companies. But if you click on one of those, for every company, you need to open up a new NAV client. You need to open up a new Windows client. So if you have like 10 companies and you have 10 numbers in there, and you click all of them, it's going to open up an NAV client for every single one of those, which is the only way to show those data in NAV. And it can take time starting the NAV client just can take a little while. So we were actually talking about that earlier, right? First time you open up a BC, it takes like 30 seconds, and the second time it's like 2 seconds. Yeah. So I'm not going to do a training here, but the important part is having this extra row included in the range. Yes. So as I said, it's the first thing we go over in the training. What basically Excel does is insert all those customers between 5 and 6. So it expands that row. We call that row, I think quite apt, we call a row 6. In this case, we call it an anchor row because it drops down with all the data. So it also pushes that chart you see, it pushes it down, right? And even if you do that, it's going to expand that chart. It's going to make it very big. Going to make it really tall because all that data is inserted. So it does the thing you expect it to do. You just need to know what it's doing. And that's why, yeah, you can leverage a lot of your Excel knowledge doing this. This chart would make a lot more sense if we, I have to see, I don't go over too far, but if you make it a bar chart, because then if you have more customers in there, maybe with a filter, the chart becomes taller and it remains readable. But again, there's a lot of Excel knowledge you can apply there. Okay. There we go. Answered all the questions, I think, that were in there. Okay, there we go. Okay, one last thing I think I want to talk about with this. I got this set up. It's fine. As I said, we have a really functional scheduler. There's a lot you can do in that. The flexibility in that scheduler and the power I said that was in there earlier is also to do with the fact that we leverage Excel So we allow you, for example, to put in email addresses in Excel. Your body can come from Excel. Your subject can come from Excel. So you can put you can put in all sorts of formulas. You can say, oh, let's do you do the week number in the subject. But having that email address come from Excel, you can also easily make it conditional. You can say, oh, if that number is lower than that, then email is blank, right? It's just an Excel function, an Excel if. And then you can pull the email addresses from those cells and fill them up using Excel and Jet functions, which makes it really flexible and really powerful. Before that, I'm gonna show you how how a Jet function works. As you've seen a couple of wizards or a couple of ways with drag and drop to add them. We can also add them individually. So we can click on any of these and it'll give us a pop-up. I'm going to do the Excel function. This is very similar, by the way, to what you get in Excel for this is very similar to what you get in Excel, which is called, I think, the insert function in Excel. It's very similar to the one we have. The difference is ours has a connection to Business Central. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type this one by heart because it's the one that a lot of our users know by heart. It's a GL function. It's actually a pretty straightforward function. What I want to show you here is I'm going to combine a couple of these accounts. So I can do 13, 100. I see the ones that have a number on there, 13, 200. And people working with Business Central or NAV all know these pipes and the combinations of those. And of course, we can do ranges like this. Let's include it all until 14,400. And then we can put in a different from. Maybe we can exclude one, can we? Let's no, I'm not going to do the exclude one. I'll risk that. I know we can, but let's not make it too complicated because Business Central won't like it when I do the drill down to it. Okay, so how does a function like this work? Very straightforward. We have this is called the GL function, and the first parameter of that is basically it asks me what do I want from that GL account. I have a couple of options here. The most common ones are balance and budget. We can also do debit, credit, things like that. But let's just do balance. And the second parameter of that is basically it asks me for an account number. So I can put those account numbers in there, and it'll give me the number. So that's you can immediately notice that's why a lot of our users know this one by heart. Very simple function. The third parameter, by the way, is start date. The fourth one is end date. So it's a really quick function to set up if you want to set up yourself. You could, of course, use the wizard. Let's copy the formatting of this. So as you can see, and give this your own title, and you can make groups like that, very straightforward, without even having to sum them up yourself in Excel. And I'll run this one more time. And I can actually, again, click on this number, and then you'll see it, where's the filter here? Oh, they changed that. Show filter pane. You can actually see it pulls that filter in, right? So it uses that exact filter I've just used in this drill down. Okay. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this to my desktop, for example. I'm calling this my first report. That's a lie. I'm going to save this. Yep. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I save this report and I'm going to publish this. So I'm going to publish this to the Jet Hub, we call it. I'm going to upload it. I can give it some another name, or I can give it a description here, but I'm just going to upload this. Okay. I'm going to open up the Jet Hub. Maybe ask me to sign in again. Maybe not. Yep. Sign in. And you can see I got a couple of reports on there, and I got my first reports, which I just added. I just published to this page. From here, I can share this report again to my colleagues. They need BC access. They need access on that data source to be able to run that. They need access to the data in there. They need access to the specific data in there. In this case, my GL data and my my customer information, and of course the company. They can also only run it on the companies they're allowed in with their BC users, which I think is a big draw of Jet reports as well. That all that user, those user setups are just used within Jet reports as well. I'm going to answer that question later. It seems a bit more complex than what I want to dive into now. So I can run the report from here. And as I run it, again, I get that pop-up. So in the browser, again, I get that pop-up. It's responsive design, so you can open up in your phone, you open up on your tablet, and you can run the report. Running the report, depending on the report, takes a couple of seconds, but it runs in the browser. You don't really have to wait for it, but as soon as I run it, I can open it up, and I get two options opening it up. I can actually download this and then open it up on my machine. Why would that be interesting? If, for example, you're still running an NAV on-prem, the only way to run a report on that NAV on-prem is basically being on-prem, and this allows you to run a report there from your home computer and then download it and open it up on your home computer without having that direct access towards that NAV database. With your Business Central, it's less of an issue because it's in the cloud, so you can access it from any machine already. But another one could be, for example, if you have a MacBook, for example, running Excel or some other Excel running instead of Windows Excel, you can still run it, download it, and still open it up in that Excel you want to use. Maybe on your smartphone, your iPhone, or your Android phone, you can have Excel as well. Download it, open it up on that Excel. Or I could open it up in Excel Online, just never leave the browser. There was a little pop-up for my login, so I hope that still worked. Yeah. So of course you need an Office 365 account, but I don't think I need to say tell you guys that. And then I got my two sheets here, my GL accounts and my customer, and the customer has the chart on it, of course, as well. So it just stays in the browser, and I can open it here in Excel Online. So that is the Jet Hub publishing that report. If I make changes to it, the Jet Hub is a bit more, does a bit more than that. In terms of distribution, of course, it allows me to share this with colleagues or with groups. I can make folders on there, but it also allows me to see who ran the report, when, and with which filters. So I can do a run history on that. Really convenient if you ever made reports for your colleagues, that you can keep track of which ones are actually used. I'll jump into that. So let me have a quick look. I can also see versions. So if I change something to that report, it'll take note of it here, and I can even go back to another version and run that one. Maybe I change something for the worst, and somebody wants to run an older version, but it's also a good way of just keeping track of that. So the Jet Hub is quite good for distribution in that sense. There's a good question here. Can I do a drill down? The answer to that is no, because running this, we're already detached from our Business Central. We're running this maybe from a location where we can't open up that browser. Plus, as you can see, there is no Jet add-in in this Excel Online. If I were to download this report, I can actually use the drill down again. So the drill down is only available in Windows Excel. And the reason for that is because Microsoft only allows Excel add-ins in Windows Excel. So, but yes. Okay, I think in terms of Jet reports, I'm a bit through with what I wanted to show you guys. There's one more thing I am going to mention. I usually Google it, and it's just we have a large number of sample reports. So I just Googled sample report Jet reports because it just takes me to the website immediately. I don't have to look for it on our website. And here I can just go to Jet, make sure I got Jet reports on there. Jet Basics ones will run as well. They're a bit simpler for an older version. And you can see we got 12 pages worth of reports here. You can view and download one of them, and it'll actually download you the zip file with all of them in there. And I always implore people to just have a look at it. Oh, these are, by the way, dynamic GP. Of course, I can just set it up to have the NAV and the Business Central ones. So I don't have to, don't see the GP ones. And just have a quick look at it, and you'll see that, yeah, there's a big variation there. A lot of them use pivot tables, but a lot of them don't. There's some charts in there. There's even some pulling pictures from Business Central, which is, of course, also a possibility that we have. But there's a lot of variation in there. And basically, what you can do in Excel, you can do in Jet Reports. We can automate just about every Excel file you have. You could automate with Jet Reports so that you can refresh it from with the push of a button. Okay. Okay. I think I'm through with that demo. I see there's one more question outstanding. I answered a lot of them during the demo. That's why it took a bit longer, but I'm okay with that, of course. And the question there is, you mentioned that one can get set up a report to be accessed on a website. So that's the Chat Hub, I'm guessing. Is it possible to do a log of rolling sales or applied discounts on Business Central that are specific to a customer when they log into their account online? So what I'm reading there, if I get this right, it's Oliver, is that you're asking for, let me say, you're asking for basically more of a customer portal. Now, customer portal is a bit of a risky thing. We don't advise doing it with Jet Reports because of that that setup I've shown you, where Jet Reports does really connect directly to your Business Central. So that means that customer would need a Business Central setup. If you were to do something like that, we usually advise you could do a customer portal, and what you could do is you could publish all of that using a scheduler which automatically generates those. So there's a couple of ways you could do that, but I wouldn't advise using the, having the Jet up and being exposed to external people. That answers your question. Usually, yeah, you need some sort of customer portal and some way of putting data in there. It's something we do a lot with Jet Analytics, moving data around like that. But yeah. And in theory, I've had customers doing it, but usually you generate them. And yeah, next question: is it possible to run the same monthly report each month automatically? Yeah. Of course, that's what it does. It's the easiest setup on the scheduler. One advice I can give you as well, if you're looking at the scheduler and maybe a small taste of the possibilities, it's far from gives you the entire picture, is looking at the support. Where is it? Jet support side. And an interesting page there. Oh, I must have missed it. Just gonna do this. They just Chat. We had some issues with the domain earlier, so support@jetglobal.com. That's okay. How maybe help you? So one page I really like here is the Jet Reports videos. It has videos on a lot of the functionality and a lot of videos, and there is 4 videos on the scheduling. So it goes from really easy, and the one you're mentioning is basically you have a report, just run that every month and save it somewhere or send it out, or you can have trigger-based reports, which is conditional reporting. If certain numbers go over certain thresholds, send the emails, things like that. And then you have the dynamic scheduling or batch scheduling, which really allows you to take that to the next level and send it out, for example, to all your vendors or customers. If certain things happen, send things out to those. So yeah, there's a number of things you can do there. Same from the early reports with the customer reports. This dynamic scheduler can really do a lot of things there, especially because you can schedule it to run for every customer, but then only send it out if certain conditions are met. So you don't spam them, but only send them reports when they're required. Okay. Okay, I've in terms of setup, so the question there, basically it's an Excel add-in that is installed. We have an app source app on Business Central that needs to be activated, and then we connect both to each other, and you're off to the races. Basically, that's what it does. And for license, of course, we we point you to James and their team to inquire there. So if you have any questions, feel free to send them in, and we might answer them later. But I think schedule.
I think we are indeed. Well, thank you very much, Jan. I don't think I've ever seen a Jet Reports demo, so that was quite nice for mine. But I hope that was helpful for everyone watching today. If you do, as Jan just said, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email if you have mine, or after this, we'll send. I think we'll send a recording out to all of you, just so you have that sort of in your box as well. But yeah, I think if we have no other questions, I think we can wrap it up.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Looks like
all. Yeah. No, sounds good. If you guys want to, if any of you obviously haven't got Jet Reports yet, and you're looking to inquire about maybe adding this to your toolbox, definitely get in touch. And then we can go over and send you a few bits to get you started as well. But yeah, in the meantime, we'll send you the recording, and have a good day, everyone. Cool.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, I see Paul raising his hand.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
I'll allow them. Hi, Paul. You can unmute yourself now, I think. Or maybe you just wanted to wave goodbye.
That might have been a wave goodbye. That's very kind, Paul. Oh no, everyone's raising their hand. Yeah. Oh no, getting out of hand. I think that's a goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, super.
Cool.
Close this up. Bye, guys.